Welcome to AI Podcast. Today we'll discuss the most important current affairs from the Hindu 15 June 2026 edition with detailed analysis for UPSC aspirants.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course. And, clarity emerges when the mind stops resisting reality.
That is a very fitting quote for today.
Right, because the reality is the systems keeping your world functioning right now aren't just the ones you see on the surface. We're going to connect the dots today across, 13 distinct updates.
Yeah, it's a massive deep dive today.
It really is. We're looking at everything from constitutional loopholes and global maritime law all the way down to underground fungi and literally the human brain.
And my role here is to help you, the listener, synthesize all these facts into a cohesive understanding. We're looking at governance, infrastructure, and human resilience.
Exactly. So let's just jump right in, starting with the architecture of governance. We've got a wild situation with the Anti-Defection Law.
Ah, yes, the Trinamool Congress, or TMC, situation.
Yeah. 20 rebel TMC MPs just submitted a letter to Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla. They want to merge with the National Citizens Party of India, the NCPI.
Which is fascinating strictly from a mechanical standpoint.
I mean, to me, this looks less like a political movement and more like, a corporate merger designed to bypass a strict non-compete clause.
That corporate merger analogy is actually the perfect way to look at it. This is entirely about the 10th Schedule's two-thirds rule.
Right, because normally switching sides gets you disqualified.
Exactly. But there's the structural exception. If two-thirds of a legislative party agrees to merge with another registered party, they completely avoid disqualification.
So they needed 20 MPs, and they got exactly 20. But why the NCPI? I mean, they're registered in Tripura in 2015, shifted to Howrah in 2023. They aren't exactly a national powerhouse.
Well, they don't need a national footprint. They just need a legal vehicle.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if these 20 MPs tried to form a totally separate new bloc, they'd face immediate disqualification. By using the NCPI as an existing registered entity, they legitimize the defection.
That is such a calculated workaround. But, that kind of maneuvering isn't just happening in Parliament. State governments are doing it, too.
You're talking about the Waqf Amendment Act 2025, right?
Yeah, specifically in Kerala. Okay, let's unpack this. What happens when state political tactics clash directly with a central statute?
It creates a massive constitutional headache. Section 14(1) mandates 2 non-Muslim members on the state Waqf board.
But the previous Kerala LDF government didn't do that.
No, they didn't. They appointed 9 Muslims and intentionally left those 2 specific slots vacant. And now BJP leader Sean George has moved the Kerala High Court.
Wait, so what's the legal argument there? Just that the board is incomplete?
It's deeper than that. The petitioner argues that because it wasn't constituted according to the exact letter of the central statute, the board fundamentally lacks jurisdiction.
Wow. So any decisions they make are just null and void.
That's the argument. And it puts the current IUML and UDF coalition in a terrible spot. It's highly communally sensitive.
Because if they comply, they anger their base.
Yeah.
If they don't, the board is legally paralyzed.
Exactly. And the Supreme Court hasn't made a final ruling on the overarching constitutional challenges to the 2025 Act yet, so we're just in this tense waiting period.
So states are pushing back on the center. But citizens are also pushing back on state institutions for transparency.
Right, like the RTI ruling with the educational boards.
Yeah, the Central Information Commission, the CIC, just overturned a CBSE denial. They ordered them to disclose point-wise details under the RTI Act regarding Class 10 and 12 answer books.
Which is a huge win for transparency.
It really is. They have to disclose paper quality, the cost, the GST, and the entire tender and procurement process.
Educational boards usually try to hide behind Section 8 the RTI Act, claiming a fiduciary relationship.
Like it's some sort of protected educational secret.
Exactly. But the CSE said, no, this is public money being spent on massive procurement contracts. It's a commercial transaction.
I love that push for accountability. But speaking of accountability, let's look at corporate survival. The IBC 2026 amendment.
The introduction of the Creditor-Initiated Insolvency Resolution Process, or CIRP.
Yeah. And this completely overturns the Vidarbha Industries precedent, right? It replaces the discretionary may with a mandatory shall for the NCLT.
That's right. If there's a default, the NCLT must admit it.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Doesn't this create an unfair VIP line? Because this amendment restricts initiation rights to notified financial institutions.
Yeah, you hit on the main controversy. It essentially disenfranchises smaller operational creditors.
Like the vendors and small suppliers.
Exactly. And they're introducing a hybrid debtor-in-possession model, meaning the existing management gets to keep running the company while restructuring.
Wait, the same management that bankrupted the company gets to stay in charge?
Yes, to theoretically preserve the business value. But by concentrating all the bargaining power with big banks, many argue it could be unconstitutional.
Because it's arbitrarily favoring certain institutions.
Right. If you look at universal models in the US or the UK, access is based on your actual financial exposure, not your institutional identity.
That makes total sense. And, if those smaller operational creditors get sidelined, they go out of business.
And that ripples out into the physical economy.
Exactly. Which brings us to how we actually move goods around. India's Logistics Performance Index, the LPI, just improved to 38th.
That's a significant jump.
It is. Private final consumption grew 7%, and we now have over 2,800 kilometers of dedicated freight corridors operational.
Which represents a massive shift in corporate strategy. The constraint on growth isn't production anymore, it's distribution certainty.
Distribution certainty. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I guess distance, more than income, is now dictating where consumption happens.
Exactly. Companies used to rely on temporary buffering, basically hoarding stock. Now they are shifting to what's called resilience arbitrage.
Resilience arbitrage. That sounds expensive.
It's about guaranteed delivery. The dedicated freight corridors mean a company can rely on a train arriving at an exact hour. They don't need massive, wasteful warehouses anymore.
That's amazing. But getting that level of infrastructure built requires some insane engineering, like the Zojila Tunnel breakthrough.
Up in the Himalayas, 13.14 kilometers long.
At an altitude of nearly 11,600 feet. And it's a bidirectional single-tube tunnel. It's supposed to be operational by 2028.
The geology there is just punishing.
That's what blew my mind. The rock classification changed a staggering 67 times during construction.
Yeah, because those are very young, volatile mountains. They were using NET, the new Austrian tunneling method.
Which means adapting to the rock's stress, right?
Right. They had to manage 8 to 10 active fault zones, plus massive water seepage, just to secure this one vital link to Ladakh.
It's just incredible human resilience. And, from the mountains, we go to the oceans. India handles about 30% of all dismantled vessels globally.
Mostly at Alang in Gujarat.
Yeah. And the DG of Shipping just issued the first ship recycling credit note. It was valued at 29 crore rupees, given to a Liberian firm for recycling the Costa.
This is a brilliant policy to link physical logistics to the circular economy. Under the Hong Kong Convention, ship owners get a credit note for 40% of the scrap value.
But there's a catch.
A very strategic catch. The note is valid for 3 years, but it can only be redeemed for up to 5% of a new vessel built in an Indian yard.
Oh, wow. So they're trying to pivot India from just being a scrapyard to being a major shipbuilding hub.
Exactly. It leverages our recycling dominance to build manufacturing capacity.
But once those Indian-built ships or Indian crews hit international waters, it's a whole different ballgame. Look at the MT Cababello.
The attack in the Gulf of Oman.
Yeah. 24 Indian seafarers were on that Palo flag ship when it was attacked. Tragically, 3 were killed.
It's a devastating situation.
And meanwhile, the Navy rescued 14 crew members of the sunken MSV Virat 1. It just makes me wonder, why can't India just step in and protect all its citizens at sea?
It comes down to a very frustrating legal concept called flags of convenience.
Meaning the ship is registered in a country like Palau for tax reasons.
Right. And under UNCLESIS, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and IMO regulations, the ship is technically the sovereign territory of its flag state.
So India's legal options are severely limited.
Very limited. India does run Operation Sankalp to help, but it's a tightrope.
Yeah.
You have to balance international maritime law against the heavy belligerence of the U.S. and Iran in that region.
It's a geopolitical minefield. Which is probably why strategic partnerships are so vital right now, like the meeting between Modi and Macron in Nice.
The India-France-Bart Innovates 2026 Summit.
Yeah, they adopted the Innovation Roadmap 2030. They're setting up a joint AI working group and calling for an early India-EU free trade agreement.
This shows a major strategic shift. We are moving from being technology adopters to technology providers.
And they specifically mentioned leveraging the Shanti Act, right?
Yes, for private participation in advanced small modular reactors, or SMRs.
So it's not just about trade for France.
Not at all. France is looking at India for economic security. In an era of global upheaval, they need trusted supply chains, especially in AI and nuclear tech.
So we've talked about all these massive man-made networks, AI, maritime trade, freight corridors, but let's look at the ultimate global network.
You're talking about the fungi.
Yes. The Science Journal just published the first global map of arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, and the numbers are, frankly, hard to wrap your head around.
It's truly a hidden world.
110 quadrillion kilometers of hyphae. That's a billion trips to the sun. It weighs 300 million tons, like 4 to 6 times the whole human population.
And its environmental impact is staggering. It sequesters 4 billion tons of CO2 every year.
Which is 11% of all human emissions. It's like this massive underground internet keeping the planet alive.
It is. But the study had a very solemn warning. These networks, especially in grasslands, are being systematically destroyed.
By agriculture, right?
Yes, industrial agriculture is tearing up these fungal networks 4 times faster than we are destroying forests.
Wow. And when you destroy the natural carbon sinks, you get extreme warming, which ties directly into Nadu's 2026 Heat Action Plan.
Right. They have officially notified heat waves as a state-specific disaster.
And the urban heat island effect, the UHI, is making it so much worse. It adds 4 to 5 degrees Celsius to the real field temps.
There is a study showing indoor temperatures in informal housing consistently exceed 32 degrees Celsius at night.
32 degrees a night. You can't sleep in that.
You can't recover. Informal outdoor workers are suffering massive productivity and health losses because their bodies never get a break from the thermal stress.
And rising heat brings secondary threats, like mosquitoes.
Which brings us to the dengue vaccine risks.
Yeah, this update is genuinely scary. In Brazil, the Butantan DV vaccine was suspended after 42 severe adverse events and 2 deaths.
And India has a similar vaccine, Dengue by Panacea Biotech, currently in ICMR Phase 3 trials.
So wait, what exactly went wrong in Brazil? Does the vaccine give you dengue?
It's due to a phenomenon called antibody-dependent enhancement, or AD.
ADE. Okay, how does that work?
Well, vaccines use 4 live weakened serotypes of the dengue virus. The goal is for your body to create antibodies for all 4.
Right.
But if your cross-reactive antibodies drop to a certain level, they start blocking the virus. Instead, they actually enhance it. They act like a Trojan horse, pulling the virus into your immune cells.
Wait, really? The antibodies help the virus?
Yes, and it causes severe hemorrhagic dengue.
That is terrifying. So what does this mean for the rollout in India?
It means we can't rush it. We need extremely rigorous pharmacovigilance and constant type-specific antibody monitoring for anyone who gets the shot.
We really can't cut corners on human health. Which brings us to our final topic, focusing on the micro level of human capital, early childhood development via Anganwadis.
This is such a critical piece of the puzzle.
Studies from Jamaica and Vellore are showing that nutrition alone doesn't fix stunting. We have programs like Adharshala and Navjatana trying to bridge the gap.
Right, because we used to think just giving a child enough calories would solve developmental delays.
But the research shows that psychosocial stimulation, love, talk, play combined with nutrition drives the highest IQ and cognitive gains.
Exactly. Environmental factors totally mediate how the body absorbs food. If a child is fighting off infections or dealing with extreme heat, their body can't process the nutrients for cognitive growth.
This was my absolute aha moment reading the sources. A child's developing brain consumes 1/5 of the body's energy.
It's incredibly energy intensive.
Yeah. So
Throughout this deep dive, we've seen humans trying to build rigid systems, insolvency laws, maritime codes, concrete mountain tunnels.
yeah, trying to control everything.
Exactly. Yet the most resilient systems we discussed today are the organic ones. The symbiotic trade of the fungi and the responsive learning environment of a child's brain.
Wow.
Perhaps the future of our governance and infrastructure isn't about resisting reality, but learning to adapt and connect as seamlessly as nature does.
I love that. That is exactly the clarity we're looking for. Thank you to everyone listening for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you, and we'll see you next time.